Welcome back, guys, to another roundtable. My name is Adam. With me once again, I have Rusmin.
Hello.
And Victor.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And at this roundtable, we're going to talk about how you can make your kid become a millionaire using CPF.
I hope my father did that.
Did he do it?
No.
All right. So this is based on an article by Lu Ching Chuan. He's actually the founder of the 1M65 movement. Some of you may have heard about it. And he basically champions, in putting money in a CPF so that you have 1 million by the time you retire using CPF. All right. And he has actually gone on to 4,065,000. That's his target. So I think I've met the guy before. Very friendly, very honest, and just very earnest about sharing about CPF. So this is about, putting money in your kid's CPF account when they're born. Yeah. So by the time your kid retires, he or she has 1 million in the CPF.
And my son can tell his friend that he's born a millionaire.
So we're gonna discuss at this roundtable whether that actually makes sense and whether you should actually do that, because there's some considerations involved if you're gonna use that strategy for your kid. All right. So I think let's just start with the basics. How is it that how do you make your kid become a millionaire using CPF?
Just put the money in the CPF and let it compound, right, Bruce?
Yeah, I think so. The amount that is being worked around is about 5%. This is assuming that I'm not sure how Lu actually calculated his number, but based on my calculation, if I were to put $60,000 in my son's special account, and then hold it for the next 60 years, he should be able to reach about close to 1 million in retirement fund.
Okay.
Right by then.
Yeah. So what Rusmin said is actually because the first 60,000 is actually 5%.
Yeah.
Right.
So you basically put all that money in the special account. Special account pays 4%, but the first 60,000 your balances in CPF extra 1%. That's 5%.
Yep.
Yeah. So by the time your kid hits 60, he or she's gonna have $1 million.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's say if you take into account our life expectancy at about, I think average at about 84. I think he probably get to enjoy another 20 over years of that million, to spend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of kids that are watching this now will be just like, oh man, ask your mom and dad to do it straight away.
Yeah.
But as parents ourselves, we're gonna discuss whether that actually makes sense. So, what do you think? Would you actually put in $60,000 right now in your kids' CPF so that by the time they hit, before 60, they become millionaires in CPF?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things to consider. First, once you put that money, let's say $60,000 in that, CPF account, it's going to lock up for the next 50 to 60 years, right? For our kids at birth, right? And that money, 60 years later, a lot of things is going to happen.
Yep.
I'm not sure what's going to happen next year, actually.
I don't even know what I'm having for lunch later today.
Yeah, so there are a lot of uncertainties, but some people see it as a good way to inherit the money for their kids. So instead of giving them money, a lot of money along the way, they actually put this sum and put in part in their CPF account. As a parent, you know that by 60 years old, once they hit that age, they will be a millionaire. Okay, so that is something that is very comforting to hear for good parents out there. All right, so my parents didn't do that to me. I wish they did.
Yeah, no one did it for us at all.
Yeah, so it's a good idea actually that to kickstart this 1 million for your kids, right? But there are a lot of things to consider. Like I said, first you need to have a lump sum of $60,000 or $65,000 to begin with, right? So working adult nowadays, if you based on average income of Singaporean, what they earn in Singapore at $4,000-5,000 a month, I think that $65,000 could be a far-fetched amount, okay? Unless they are born rich or their parents actually give them a lump sum of money to, pass it down to.
And
their
this is just for one kid. What do you have, 3 kids?
Yeah.
And if the couple is young, I don't think they have the 60,000 to do it. So I think most of the time it's the grandparents that put the 60,000.
Oh yeah.
So by right, typically for young couples, right, usually young parents, you have a lot of burdens to to pay for your cars, to pay for your houses, sometimes especially your kids' costs and all that. Okay, but apart from the lump sum, of course, there are another way you can do it. Of course, based on the article that I read, I think you can start with different contribution, right? Let's say you start off with $10,000, and then you every year contribute $5,000 to your kids' CPF account. do that for 18 years, I think by the age of 65, your kids should still be able to enjoy about $1 million in CPF retirement account, right? So that's something that if you don't have lump sum, you can consider doing that. Okay, so there's an alternative amount, and there are also of course different amount like 20,000, and then you have to contribute 5,000 for 13 years. You still get the same target amount. Okay, so there are a lot of ranges depending on the contribution that you have. Okay, so that's those are the ideal kind of scenario, but what we need to consider is, of course, the interest rate that government that promised to us 5% may change. Right, so that is not static. Nothing cast on the stone, right? Yeah. So
I think if you look at the special account, right, they were introduced in 1977. So in 1977, right, when they introduced the special account, the interest was actually 6+%. Right. Wow. So then after that, I think in around 1993 or 1994, it drops to about 2.5%. Okay, then it gone back up. Then after that, it has been flat at 4%. Right, from 1999 until now. Right. So I think the special account interest percentage can be changed on, but of course from 1999 until now, it has been maintaining at 4%. So this one thing that you need to take note also. Yeah.
So currently, even though that the interest rate, the average 10 years government bond yield securities which they base it on, is only at about below 2%, right? So usually there will additional 1% more to get their CPF, the special rate, interest rate, right? So at this stage, it's actually still below 4%, but I think the CPF has currently maintained it at 4%, which is very fortunate.
Yep.
Of course, for the first 60,000, you get earn up to additional 1%.
Yeah,
okay?
And they review it quarterly.
And they review quarterly.
Yeah, okay. I mean, my argument always has been for CPF is that there's nowhere else in the world that you can invest in practically a risk-free asset.
Yep.
A AAA rated instrument because it's backed by the Singapore government.
Yep.
Yeah.
At 4-5% interest. You can't find that anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
But the only caveat is that, of course, you can only take your money out when you're 55. So that's the thing. That's the trade-off. But I think, you can't find that anywhere else.
Super long fixed deposit.
It's a super long fixed deposit.
I think the question here is that, if my kids, they are 65 or 55, let's say 65, they take out the money, 1 million. What can they buy?
Yeah. So what is 1 million 60 years from now? What is it worth today?
So if you look at the Singapore inflation rate since 1986 to 2020, all right, so for the past 30 over years, I think the average interest rate is about 1.57%. But to be safe, I will just going to use 2%. Okay, I think inflation rate for a developed nation at 2%, I think is a reasonable amount. Unless you're emerging countries like Indonesia or Brazil, maybe the interest rate will be inflation rate over those countries will be a lot higher. So at 2%, $1 million in today's value, 65 years down the road, right, is going to be worth around, I would say only 276,000, a quarter million.
Because when people think about 1 million, say, I'm retiring 1 million, but retiring 1 million 60 years in the future is very different. That money is going to be worth a lot less. So in comparison, you're going to discount the amount back to today.
Present value.
So it's like the equivalent of retiring with $260,000 today.
So what can you do with $260,000?
Is that enough for retirement?
No, that's not enough.
Well, I mean, it's enough if you live in Indonesia.
Singapore is expensive.
Singapore is expensive. So I don't think that is sufficient for retirement for my son.
But of course, that is a free money for your kids.
Yeah, I mean, every person have asked whether, would you want your parent to have done this for you? Of course, everyone's going to say yes.
Extra 250,000 of today's value, why
not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So, but of course, the considerations is that basically you think that, we don't know interest rates will always be at 4-5%.
Yep.
60 years in the future.
Yeah.
Singapore is not even 60 years old.
Yeah.
Our independence was 1965. It's not even 60 years old.
Yeah.
So basically projecting beyond how long Singapore has been around.
Yeah, and also to ensure that if the government is still intact, that nothing happened to Singapore.
Okay.
Right? If something happened to Singapore, then everything also going to change, right?
Yeah, I mean that can apply to anyone. And of course, government policies can change as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the inflation rate will also change, right? Okay. So assuming that we next few years or next 10, 30 years, if you live in an environment where the interest rates are very high, let's say 3%, let's say we use a 3% benchmark, and then over the next 65 years, your 1 million will be worth around 146,000 in today's value.
Yeah. So it really depends on the inflation. as well.
Inflation rate and your interest rate for the CPF. So there are a lot of moving parts that I think we need to consider before doing this strategy. Yeah.
Okay. Because it's just too far off in the
Too
future.
far off,
Too
yes.
far off. But basically, the advantage of using this strategy is that you're just working on the fact that CPF is essentially risk-free.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're using the advantage of time that your kid has.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you
Because
hate volatility.
yeah, and you just like don't want to, because investing invariably involves risk.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right. But CPF is risk-free, and your kid has the advantage of time.
Yep.
They can
Yeah.
compound it because you like your kids, just born. They have a lot of time to compound at 5%. That makes up to quite a bit at
Yep.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the other thing that you got to point out is that your kid is probably not going to be a bum. Hopefully, right?
Yep.
So, my parents put in this amount of money for me. I'm not going to work, but they're going to work as well.
They're going to
Yep.
And they're going
contribute.
to contribute
Yeah.
to their CPF as
So that
well.
amount going to be more than 1 million.
So they should end up with more than 1 million
Yeah.
if they've been working
Yep.
their whole life and all that stuff.
Ideally.
Ideally. So I think these are the considerations that you want to do this. I think the main thing is that it's just very far off in the future. So if you're going to do this for your kid, 60,000, 65,000 per kid, multiplied by how many kids you have, right? Whether that makes sense for you, And I think as new parents yourself, okay,
Yep.
Victor and Rusmin, their kids were just born last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
COVID kid.
Yeah. So they're healthy and all that. But this question I'm going to ask you, my kids are a lot older,
Yeah.
But for you guys, if you had the opportunity to put in like $60,000 in your kid's CPF account right now, would you do it?
No.
No. Why?
I mean, okay, let me explain a bit my rationale, okay? Usually if a normal typical parents, when they want to do saving plans for the kids, the most popular one will be the endowment plan, right? When you look at the endowment plan, I look at SingSaver, they already did a matchup of the mid and long-term endowment plan. The guaranteed amount is about 1.57%, right? And the non-guaranteed amount is between 3.8 to 4.75, right? So the non-guaranteed is not confirmed one. You there's high chance that you may not even get that amount, right?
So it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, so we will use the 1.57%. So if you based on just want to save for your kids, make sure that they have a lump sum at the end of this, maybe 20 years, 30 years or something like that. Then I think it makes more sense, right, to not put in the endowment, but rather put into your CPF special account, which will get higher interest rate and is confirmed, it's guaranteed over there, right? But personally, why I'm saying no is because I think if you know how to invest, I think you can get higher returns than 4%, right? But of course, you must absorb the volatility, right? But if you are someone who hate volatility, then I say CPF is the safest instruments options for you as a Singaporean.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know of some parents actually that they kind of like work hard.
Yeah.
And they buy a property for their kid.
Whoa.
Those are the best. Those are the best parents, right? They
Well,
want
I
to
really hope my father do that, man.
some people. I know of some parents who
Yeah.
they work and then they buy a property and then when they pass on, they will give you one property.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another kid gives you another property. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
I wish my parents did that for me. But,
I'll send the video link to your parents and latest parent.
but in the sense, you can say that instead of property, because like property is so expensive, and
Yep.
not everyone's like a high income earner and rich, right?
Yeah.
You could do this for the CPF. So would you do it, Rusmin?
I think Singapore is a very unique country where government actually has this CPF whole thing. I mean, the country where I came from, Indonesia, we don't talk about. There's no CPF. There's no topic. There's no topic to talk.
You can find this
There's no
anywhere.
retirement plan over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can't rely on government that much. So typically we rely on our own saving. We teach our kids to be more independent, and so that they can earn a living for themselves. So that's something that I will advocate for my kids as well, right? So, but of course with this system in place, I have the option. My son have the options to. I can actually do this option for him, right? But as a parent, of course, I am not going to do that, mainly because I know how to invest, so I'm fairly confident that I can get higher investment return of more than 5%, right? So although this is a guarantee, but I think from my investing, I think I can get. To me, I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a parent who have no idea about financial literacy or don't know what stocks about or have no idea, have never invested before,
Then CPF is your best choice.
yeah. So CPF is a very good option because this is a scheme that I think government planned it for you, and then give you the best return out there, rating, right? So it's a very good option for people who doesn't have an investment background, and then they can actually park their money there so that their kids will be, future-proof the kids.
Okay. So
by
for
the
you,
time
it's
they
an
retire.
opportunity cost.
There's
Because
an opportunity cost, and I compare with some of the index. You just throw your money into some of the ETFs out there. SPY, for example, I think is one of those index that if you look at the return, it's actually over the last 20-30 years, it's getting about 8 to 9%.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right, but of
I got
course-
it over here. 30 years, 9.21%,
Nine-
exclude dividend and fee.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
of course that is on the hindsight, right? I mean,
Yep.
we don't know what SPY is going to perform the next 30, not to mention 60 years.
yeah.
It's so long away. So if let's say we will assume based on MSCI World Index, that also give a return about 6%. Again, based on the past history, right? Since the inception. So I think equity can give you a better rate over the long run. But of course, people who put the money here, they want certainty,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? So you can't replace it.
Yeah.
Right, so that is something that, but even though it's highly certain, but again, we mentioned about the government policy may change, and then the inflation rate may go up higher, but by then the interest rate may also jump,
Yep.
right, because it will fluctuate together with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 kids myself. My position is go and do it yourself. Go work hard and put it in your own CPF and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But we will give them the best platform that they can to succeed in life.
Yep.
But I think this is a pretty good discussion. I think because this is really an option for some parents that just want to
Yes.
have kind of like setting up a trust fund for your kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
But instead of like unlocking the trust fund at 21 and then they go party, this is a trust fund that you can only unlock at 55.
Yeah.
Yep.
So your child can't really enjoy it
Mhm.
until they're actually hopefully mature at
65.
55.
Yeah.
But if they are stuck in between 21 to 65, good luck to them, because they know they are rich, but they can't touch the money until they hit the retirement
What is the
age.
point? Because you don't want them to touch the money and enjoy it. It's like, I can only get it when I'm 55, so I still have
But
to.
sometimes you may need it in the middle of the life,
Yeah.
An amount,
But this is CPF, you can't touch it.
oh
No,
yeah.
too bad. You cannot touch it. 55. So I mean, this is a consideration. Really, just
Yeah.
something that I think was interesting to discuss, since that this is something that we have in Singapore,
Yeah.
and it's quite a viable option for some parents out there. They
Yep.
just really want to
Yeah.
just put it in and just close their eyes and just assume that. We just presume that Singapore and all that will still be prosperous and we still have CPF.
I would say
around
pretty
all that.
no-brainer actually.
in that
Yep.
sense.
Yeah, in that sense,
Okay,
yeah.
so what do you think? I mean, would you put $60,000 in your kid's CPF today at birth or however old they are, and would you do it? Put it in your questions and comments. Let us know what you think, because we think that we can do it better. Yeah, but what do you think about yourself when you have kids? Okay, so I think that's the discussion that we want to have today. So I hope that was a pretty good discussion. It was a good wrap up, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, thank you for joining us. My name is Victor. Not Victor. My name is Adam. That's Victor, and that's
Thank
Rosemary.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, let us know whether you do something like that for your kid with CPF, and of course, any questions about CPF in general. Happy to help you out as well. And of course, subscribe to our channel. Many more roundtables coming up. And of course, hit the like button if you like this discussion. Let us know we're doing a great job. So we'll see you around again.